Michele Tafoya, NBC Sunday Night Football, NBC Wednesday afternoon football sideline reporter, and she joins us now from Pittsburgh. How confident are you we're playing football today, Michele?
I'm very confident. But first I have to say Jalen Suggs of Gonzaga. Don't ignore him, okay? Mini guy, point guard. All right. Yeah, we're going to have some football. It's the Thanksgiving edition of Sunday Night Football on Wednesday afternoon. That's what we have. We feel pretty confident. Look, the Steelers have two guys missing, and James Conner and Stephon Tuitt. The Ravens, you should see this flip card. If people don't know what a flip card is, it's the card that they give the media that lists all the starters in the second and third deep. It is a mess. It's just an absolute mess for the Ravens. But, some of these guys are coming back. The rumors that Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins will play in this game are false. They will not. They're not coming. But, they're going to take rapid tests before they leave the hotel today. And assuming everyone clears, we've got a football game.
Okay. Could there be a number, is there a number of positive tests that could happen this morning where that it would put this game in jeopardy?
Well, my guess would be, again, this is not official, Dan, but what they've been doing is, if there's a single test, then really, if that person's been in meals, in a walkthrough, in a meeting, then everyone's at risk. Or they could say, you know what, it's a defensive back, we're only worried about the corners, and everyone else is negative. I'm sure it would have to be cleared with the league. But, yeah, that's something I'm sure John Harbaugh is grinding his teeth about this morning is get these tests back and please make them negative.
How has your role changed in the last week in approaching this game?
I've just become very familiar with Pittsburgh, Dan, especially the downtown area. It's been, the role hasn't changed so much, although I'll tell you, we're all kind of dizzy of looking through the numbers and the names. Okay, this guy now is off the list, but this guy's on. So they have how many starters missing, and how many of those guys are Pro Bowlers, and but this guy now is back and this guy's off. That part has been honestly the most time-consuming part of this, for me anyway, and I think really for all of us, trying to figure out who's playing. All these practice squad players that are coming up, it's just a bunch of them, and people don't know who they are. So preparing that way, I know it's been tough for Chris getting these names of guys you never heard of. And, for me, I just feel like I'm a counter. I count COVID tests. That's what I've done all week.
We're talking to Michele Tafoya, NBC Sunday Night Football sideline reporter. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Michele will be on the call. The game starts at 3:40 Eastern. What is the schedule this morning for these two teams, or when did they take the field?
Okay, so kickoff's at 3:40. We go on the air at 3:30. I think the teams arrive in the 1 o'clock hour. As I talked to Cam Hayward last night, I said, what's the day like tomorrow? He goes, it's just a delayed 1 o'clock game. That's the way they're looking at it. They're looking at it like, you know what, we were supposed to play at 1, but there's a lot of snow, so we got to play at 3:30 instead. So I think, everything's just bumped a little bit. I know these guys are itching to get out there. The one kind of silver lining, especially for Pittsburgh, is guys have had all this time to rest and get better. They were pretty beat up, and they've gotten to rest and get better. I would say that's true for some of the Ravens as well, but Pittsburgh feels great. Now, Harbaugh loves the idea that no one thinks they can win this game. But it is hard to see them putting together a team that can contend with what the Steelers have going right now, though the first game was very close.
Did you talk to Roethlisberger? Did the crew talk to Roethlisberger?
Yes.
Okay. What did you take away from that interview?
Nothing particularly groundbreaking. I think the usual stuff. He feels great, loves his team. They don't need to go undefeated. They just want to keep winning. Their ultimate goal is a Super Bowl, obviously, and they're really confident. There's
no drama with Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, not really. Isn't that funny? And so many times that there are, but it's interesting. No drama. Tomlin's his usual brilliant self with all these lines that come out of his mouth that just kill you. But there's not a lot of drama because there isn't a lot of injury. Now, the interesting thing about James Conner, their running back, their superstar, is that, he's a cancer survivor. And one of the things about this COVID thing is if you have a secondary, a comorbidity, they call it, that can be dangerous. But James has been healthy for a long time, and as far as we know, he's handling this just fine. And I would say the same thing about Mark Andrews for the Ravens. He's a type 1 diabetes guy and having a great season, by the way. But, he came into this season eyes wide open and didn't really think anything of it. But those are the two, I think, on these two teams that you have to kind of just have a little bit of extra concern for. What role does weather play today? Not as much as it would have last night, because yesterday was a complete snowstorm here, and things were very slick, and it went from snow to rain late in the day. It was ugly. So I think weather is going to be a non-factor. It's supposed to be sunny, cold, but if anything was going to be impacted, I would say it's the kicking game, but that has never seemed to bother Justin Tucker. What's interesting, Justin Tucker's like the most successful kicker at Heinz ever, maybe. He's missed one kick here, one field goal attempt, and that was in his first season. The interesting thing is for him is his long snapper, Morgan Cox, is out with COVID. So they've got a practice guy coming up to do the long snapping with this group, Justin Tucker, their punter, Sam Cook, who does the holding. And this group has played 90 straight games together, and now they're interrupting this. And we'll see how that goes. Justin didn't want to talk about it. He was a little superstitious. He told me, the guy, Nick's going to do great, Nick Moore, who's coming up. But, that could be sort of an interesting twist in all of this. A guy who has had just ridiculous success at Heinz in Justin Tucker, is that messed up today? Who knows? You're also hosting NBC Sports Uncovered, a podcast, and the latest interview is with Jon Gruden. What did we unearth from the podcast with the new and improved 2.0 Jon Gruden? For me, the most interesting thing was how emotional he can still get about thinking about when he was traded to Tampa. When the Raiders were able to say, "Yeah, we don't really need you anymore. We're going to trade you." It really, I was surprised at how much that still stings for him, even though he went to Tampa and beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl and really had the ultimate revenge. But it still is hard for him to talk about, and that was interesting to me because as hard as I tried to get more information from him, he would say it's too painful and it makes me emotional, and so I'm done talking about that. But given what happened in that Super Bowl, it felt like they knew every play that Rich Gannon was calling. Does Gruden admit that now that they knew exactly what was going on? He in a way, yeah. I mean, they acknowledge the fact that was one of those years where you didn't have that week break between the end of the season and the Super Bowl, or between the end of the playoffs and the Super Bowl that we have now, that sort of bye week. And that really didn't allow the Raiders to change much. And so, with that short week of notice or short week of practice and preparation, they weren't able to change much. And, Gruden knew a lot. And Gruden loves to have some colorful language in practice, on the sidelines. If you were going to, was there a moment where you went, oh, my God, you're on the sidelines and you hear a coach go off? Have you had one of those moments? With Gruden? Well, anybody, just where the language was a little more colorful than you would have thought. Sure, I have. You know what's odd about my strongest memory of Gruden was early in my sidelining career. I was still at CBS, and it was the day after Christmas, and we were doing a game at Oakland. I don't even remember who the other team was, because on Christmas night, the night before the game, I had a surprise in that my then boyfriend, now husband, popped the question on Christmas night. So I went out the next day to that game just, like on a cloud, and Lance Barrow was the producer of the game, who kept saying, "Michele, hold the microphone in your left hand so everyone can see the ring." And and so then I just remember at halftime I was waiting for Gruden to come out, and Gruden sort of pointed to the ground like, "You come over here, I'm not coming to you." And so I went over and talked to him. But, I have a great relationship with Gruden because we worked on Monday Night Football on ESPN for a couple of years together. And But yeah, I mean, every coach is different, and they've all got their thing. And some guys are really much more polite than you would expect, and some guys are really salty.
Who's really polite?
It's funny, Dan. It doesn't come to mind right away.
How does Belichick? Is he ever expressive with you, effusive, where he just?
I wouldn't say effusive. I'm not sure that he's ever really effusive unless he's talking about a great story or something historical in football. But look, I'm appreciative of any coach that's willing under those circumstances to talk to you. I do have a memory of him going into that last Super Bowl we covered in Arizona, and I remember they were heading into the locker room for the last time before kickoff, and I caught up with him and I said, "Let me just ask you, do you get nervous before these big games?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do." And I thought that was interesting because he's a guy that would never really let on that things, bother him or that he's anything but just feet on the ground and everything. So I thought that was really interesting. It's a game-to-game thing, Dan, and you just kind of go into each interview with these coaches, whether they're winning or losing, just bracing for the worst and trying not to ask a stupid question.
Have fun today, Michele, and hopefully you get to escape Pittsburgh. Not that it's not a great city, but you probably spent more time there than you're paying taxes in Pittsburgh.
We all are, and there's no room service. So, but no, we're good. I don't want to sound like we're complaining. We're not. It's all good, and we're excited. But thank you, Dan, for having me.
Thank you, Michele. That's Michele Tafoya. NBC Sunday Night Football, now Wednesday afternoon football sideline reporter. Festivities start at 3:30 Eastern on NBC. And also the NBC podcast with Jon Gruden, Sports Uncovered with Michele Tafoya.